You don't need this big glitz and glamorous office. You don't need some sort of incubator. You just need to start something.
Welcome to Midland Money Mindset, your weekly dose of inspiration and insights to ensure you enjoy each step of your journey. Whether you're saving for the future, planning your next big adventure, or simply looking to add more joy to your life, you've come to the right place. Now, let's dive in.
Many creators and business owners feel stuck, pouring their heart into content that goes nowhere. They're overwhelmed by algorithms and watching others go viral while they stay invisible. Today's guest, Nick Ciavarella, better known as 716 Nick, proves there's a different path. From building brands out of an apartment to producing viral motion tracking videos for the NHL, Bleacher Report, Barstool, ESPN, and not to mention top athletes like Rasmus Dahlin and Tyreek Hill. Nick's journey shows what happens when creativity meets relentless execution. If you're ready to transform your story into a standout, share-worthy content and finally be seen, this conversation on the Midland Money Mindset is your blueprint for turning passion into momentum and momentum into success. I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Midland Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Midland Financial. Let's dive into the show. Well, I have Nick Ciavarella today, an influential content creator. I'm excited to have you here today, Nick, to share your story with our audience and our listeners. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on. I feel like this is long overdue. You kind of got, I feel bad, you got buried in the hidden requests there on Instagram and the DMs for a bit, but glad we're finally doing this. So
that's awesome.
Excited to be getting the week started with you here.
Yes, me too. So listen, we're going to spend a lot of time on what you're doing today, right? And when you started this influencer life, as you call it, right? You know, it always wasn't that way. Can you share a little bit with our listeners about your journey? Because I think, you know, it's telling and people are interested in that. So can you tell us about your journey up into that point? And then we'll spend a lot of time on what you're doing today in the influencer world.
I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Content creator, video producer, if you will. I wear many hats as a content creator and video producer. You know, I work with the NHL as a live social contributor and also work with Dishin and Skate Skins, which are two hockey brands based in Buffalo, New York here. But to kind of backtrack a little bit how I got into this video production space, for the longest time, like when I was a kid, I found a lot of influence in skateboarding and I guess like hype culture in that space. I was a huge fan of Bam Margera. Was one of the main characters on the show Jackass coming up. So for those who, you know, are kind of around that age or know who that is, he was a big influence in my life and kind of how I got into this stuff. When I was 12 years old, my aunt gave me a camcorder to kind of play around with at family parties and stuff. And I kind of just fell in love with the thing. So anytime, you know, I was at family parties, have the camcorder, be recording everybody and asking them questions and things like that. And that kind of evolved into making stunt videos around my neighborhood with my buddy Derek, who I work very closely with on the video side at the Dishin brand to this day. We would just record each other doing stupid stuff around the neighborhood, whether it was blowing up fireworks or, you know, making skateboarding videos or, you know, doing hockey stuff or, you know, in the driveway. And, you know, that kind of stopped after, like, once I got to high school, just because I just was also playing hockey at the time, really was trying to take that a little bit more seriously. And when I was younger too, like having a camera or anything like wasn't cool. Like I kind of felt like I was the nerdy kid with a camera for a while. So I kind of just like put it aside for a little bit, but always had a love for it and always had a love for just, you know, whether it was being in front of the camera or behind the camera. So when I got out of high school, I went and played junior hockey up in Canada, and that's where I kind of fell in love with it again. I had a GoPro at the time when I was up there. I just kind of like documented my life up there. Started playing around with the camera again from that point on and was using my phone for things. And then I moved back to Buffalo to go to the University at Buffalo, and that's where Matt Keeler and I linked up. And by that point, I was like, I like this camera stuff. Didn't really know I could like make money with it or anything like that. Just, you know, had this camera and I'm like, okay, you know, what can I do to bring value to this brand and how could I bring things more to life with my camera? So we started vlogging and things like that. And from the vlogs, I ended up going and shooting a lot of football content and basketball content over at the University at Buffalo, which really helped my portfolio just kind of become what it is today. It kind of helped me find my style in sports. And again, like at that point too, I didn't really understand or know the business of it of, you can go make money doing this and people are going to offer you money for it. So I had some people offer me money to make them little highlight videos and things like that when I was in college. And I was like, wow, okay, like this is dope. Like I kind of want to keep doing this. Like this is really fun. So I spent a lot of time working in college and not really living like this, this college life of, going out and going to parties and stuff. I just kind of went to class, went to work and tried to save up for a camera. And when I wasn't in the classroom or working, I was spending a lot of my time with Matt and we were just making videos and doing everything we can to try and make that brand a full-time thing. So eventually, like when I left college, I was kind of stepping into either Dishin or doing some sort of freelance work with my camera. And that's exactly kind of what happened. Very fortunate for that too.
Well, let's talk about Dishin for a minute. So it used to be called just Dishin and you now rebranded it as Dishin. But how did you become a part of that? How did that come to fruition?
Yeah, so Matt and I, we've known each other for a long time on the internet prior to me, even him and I just connecting and me being a part of the brand. But it started, he had followed me like when I was in high school on when the brand used to be called Just Dangle, and he followed me on Twitter. And I was just playing junior hockey at the time. It was my first year playing juniors. So I was like, oh, okay, like this is sweet. Like this brand just followed me. Like that's really cool. They have a ton of followers. Like that's sick. Didn't think anything of it. Didn't really think like, oh, this is a kid my age like running this thing. So a few years passed and I stopped like seeing stuff on the Dangle page really. And then all of a sudden I saw a tweet go out and it said that it was rebranded to Just Dishin. So again, kind of ignored that a little bit, saw it happen. And next thing I know, I get a follow from the brand on Instagram, and then I get a Facebook notification saying that Matt Keeler added you on Facebook. So I'm like, oh, like who's this kid? Like I wonder if he's like into hockey or something. So like at that time too, Facebook was really popular, and a lot of hockey kids and coaches and stuff were connecting on that platform. And I saw he was like owner and founder of Just Dish, and I'm like, what is it with this kid? So when I moved back to Buffalo, I was helping my gym at the time that I trained at just do some marketing on Instagram. And I reached out to Matt and I was just like, yo, I'd love to just pick your brain one day on, some marketing stuff and, kind of what you're doing with the brand and see if you can help me with what I'm doing with this gym. So we met for like an hour and a half, like that next week, and kind of hit it off really. Just like, I was also not really into like the whole gym thing. Like I just kind of wanted to stick with hockey, and him and Ben had a pop-up shop at Freshly Dipped, I remember, and I went there. It was probably one of the last people to show up because I had a hockey game that day. But I remember going, and we ended up, again, kicking it for like an hour and just talking shop. And we just kept meeting up after that, a few times a week. And it just naturally just kind of came to light. Like he had a vision for like where he wanted to see hockey go, and there was something that was missing there. And obviously, for those that know, it's a very traditional sport. So like, how can we bring that hype culture to hockey? We both kind of agreed that like hockey does need that. It needs more flair, it needs more creativity. So like, what can we do to bring a spark back into the sport? And we just, kind of, again, hit it off. And I was like, dude, I want to like, can I just help you out with this? And from there, we just been going hard ever since. And it's crazy to think that we've been at it for like 7 or 8 years now together.
Yeah. You've done a lot of work with Matt Keeler, and he was on episode 259 of the Midland Money Mindset. And, you and he have watched skate skins take off, really thanks to TikTok. What should other business owners, for the other entrepreneurs, business owners who are listening to this, what should they understand about using social media to help spark that growth? Because you guys had a lot of success with it.
Yeah, for sure. I think for one, it's a free platform to market your products on. I think that in today's day and age, we're talking influencers, right? Like there's a lot of influential people out there that could really help push your product, push your services to where you want them to go. And I think that, again, it's a free platform. If you're posting on platforms like TikTok, the Instagrams, even X and Facebook, YouTube, like all that stuff, someone's going to come across that. And you never really know who's really watching your content. I know for us, skate skins at the time was such a new product, and it was so interesting because hockey's never seen any skate customization product like that. So I think for us, it was showing people like, okay, well, this is what hockey could look like. This is what we want to do with it. And if you don't like it, cool. If you do like it, that's awesome. Here's the product. You can have your own design on it. You can put your team logo, whatever on it. So I think for us, it was really big because at the time too, it was during COVID. So rinks were shut down. We were just kind of testing out a lot of different things with the product. Like Matt had all the boys drop off their skates at his apartment one day, and he's like throwing our skates in like the bathtub and stuff with the product on. But it really helped us kind of, build the brand up to the point where it was like, okay, now we have this following with the product. We're starting to see some traction on our website now. How do we evolve this? Okay, well, now we can go to retail and say, okay, how many organizations are you working with? Do you want to have our product be included in these, and like your merchandising into, whatever it is that you guys are selling to your organizations and these teams? And I think too, like over the years, we've seen it's had a positive impact, not so much on the creative side of it, but also showcasing things for a good cause. I think for one, it's really important to be posting on these platforms because it's free, but you can also educate your audience and the people you're trying to market to. You can educate them on what that product or service could really be.
One of the things I find interesting about you is you've been part of really two brands that were built out of an apartment, right? And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs and business owners think that they need these offices, they need, infrastructure. What advice do you have for, aspiring entrepreneurs, coming from somebody who's been able to, be a part of two brands that were built out of an apartment?
I think for one is surrounding yourself with the right people. I think, I'm very grateful to have someone like Matt in my life. He's really pushed me to be the best version of myself I can be, whether that's work related or just personally. And I think him and I do a very good job of pushing each other, but also like to start something, you don't need this big glitz and glamorous office. You don't need some sort of incubator. You just need to start somewhere. And especially in today's age, I mean, a lot of the work that can be done is from a phone, a laptop, and even if you don't need to also, if you have to record content for your Instagram or TikTok page, like you don't need a fancy camera, you just need your phone and that's it. So I think the biggest thing for us in like starting that, like doing all this in Matt's apartment over the years, it taught me was you just got to start. And if you don't start, like it's not gonna, nothing's gonna fall from the sky. Like you have to start and kind of pave the way, and eventually people will kind of follow along. We have this funny saying that we've been saying it for years too throughout our group is we're just the guys that are early to the party. We're early to the party, and that's it. Usually people like to stroll in, a little later, or like to be fashionably late. We like to be fashionably early. Yeah. And we've always stuck by that. And I think that has really helped get our products and really kind of push the boundaries in our sport and our industry.
Yeah, great advice. Get started. You don't need all this fancy stuff either. I think it's great advice. I would say most people, and we have a lot of hockey people who listen to the show, follow the show, and I think most people who love hockey, dream about working with the NHL. I think after they realize they're not going to play in the NHL, maybe the next dream is to work with the NHL, and that's something you did. You've done that successfully. How did that opportunity come together for you, and what did it teach you about creating content really at what needs to be the highest level?
I think for one, just kind of going back a little bit, a lot of how I got that opportunity with the league and still have this opportunity today is just through networking and relationships. Those are so big. I have a buddy of mine by the name of Tape Kage on Instagram. His name is Josh. Really good buddy of mine. He worked for the NFL as a live social contributor and then ended up working for the NHL. And there was a spot that opened up in Buffalo. So he had referred me to his boss at the time, and his boss ended up reaching out to me on Instagram very randomly. Didn't expect this. Had no intentions on this happening or going to work for the league in any capacity. And I just got a random DM, and the DM was like, hey, it was my boss, who is my now boss. She said, hey, we have an opening in Buffalo for this live social contributor program. Do you have some time to get on a call? Would love to just talk to you and see if it's something that interests you. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Again, didn't think anything of it. Just thought it was going to be a phone call. It ended up being an interview, which I didn't really kind of find out until after the call. I just thought it was just going to be like hey, this is what we do. If you're interested, apply. And I'm super grateful for that. That opportunity for me was such a blessing because, like you said, we all, especially people in hockey, not everybody gets to go to the NHL, but I'm able to work with the league in a different light rather than a player. I can now document the game. And I think for me, what it's taught me is the importance of speed, but also when you get to that level, like you really have to perfect your craft. And I think for me, I've had so many reps over the years where I was doing sports highlights, things with the Dishin brand, with the Skins brand, freelance work. All of those reps kind of helped get me to that point. And then now I get to that point and it's like, okay, now we got to turn it up another notch because now you're in high pressure situations. So things have to happen. Things happen fast. You have to turn around things fast. But I think for me, what has helped me was kind of understanding that craft, knowing what my skill set is, but now having to know how to utilize and understand the art of storytelling, because essentially like your content could be super great, but if there's no storytelling behind it, what does it mean? So I think for me, I've really, over the last few years, I've really tried to dive deeper into the storytelling aspect first, and then the editing and the fancy stuff will come.
Let's pause for a moment. What actually brings you joy? It's something most people never think about, yet it shapes how your life unfolds. You're busy. You make responsible choices. You even plan ahead. But have you slowed down long enough to ask if what you're building supports a life you enjoy living? That's the reason I built my YouTube channel, to help you bring more joy to your money journey. Sure, we'll talk about all the essentials, but my real goal is to help you connect your finances with what brings you joy, because money is the tool that funds the moments that matter. If you want to explore that connection more deeply, visit my YouTube channel at Larry Sprung. Well, let's talk, because you mentioned the speed, and I think that's important for people to understand, because a lot of times, as a content creator, you have time to create it, you have time to edit it, you could put it out there, you could test it out, you could refine it. But on NHL game day production, you don't have that luxury. Everything's moving fast. You don't have really time to overthink or really chase that perfection. And I think we're in a world now where so many people get stuck trying to make things perfect. Going back to what you said earlier about, having infrastructure, I think done is better than perfect, right? Along those same lines. Here, you don't even have time to really even make things perfect. What's the real value you've seen in learning to work at that, high speed that the NHL really demands you to do that?
One thing that I have learned, even before working with the league, was if you have to get a video done, and we'll call it a 24-hour turnaround. Say, I'll just give an example for a recap video. I kind of have already known that, hey, it's probably a good idea to have a song picked out, right? And to know what shots you're going to get. So, for example, if I'm, at a game and we have to get some sort of clip done for a star player or someone that's about to hit a milestone during warmups, I kind of know I'll ask a few questions to certain people who are maybe around the league or around the team. Number one, what is this player doing during warmups? Where are they setting up? And what I'll try and do is go in and set up, a shot where I know that player is going to be, and get that shot and get what I need to get. And I'll also have a song already picked out. So now I have a timeline ready to go in my editing software with the song. All I got to do is put the shots in that I need. It's little things like that kind of help really speed up your workflow and process. Because, like I said earlier, when you have those reps and you kind of know what to do, the biggest thing is that storytelling and knowing what to look for and how to place it on your timeline. So you do have a nice little polished video there. And, some things don't end up being perfect because of how fast you have to work. But I think for me, the reps really helped. And I think that if I were to have gone into this role 5 years ago at the league, I think that I would have struggled a little bit because I needed to learn some certain things, like how to speed up my workflow a little bit, knowing what to look for, knowing that I have to have a song ready to go, things like that. So it's all little things that kind of get you to that point.
One of the things you've done is you've built a name for yourself around motion tracking videos. If you could kind of share with our listeners, some I'm sure know exactly what that means, others may not. If you could just tell us what a motion tracking video is, and then, how did that style come together, and what was it like for you to see it go viral?
I'm no expert, and I will be first to admit that. And I don't want to ever come off as an expert. So if there's anyone listening that thinks that maybe I could be doing something better, like, let me know in a comment, DM me seriously. Because again, I that's the beauty of this industry. There's always room for growth. There's always room to learn. But
great perspective.
Yeah, for those that don't know, like, motion tracking basically is just taking your subject and pretty much having that and that only in focus and kind of following that. So in a lot of the videos that a lot of people have seen, I will motion track a player's head. So basically what I'll do is take a tracker in After Effects, put that tracker on my subject's head, in this case, a hockey player, for example, and it will stabilize their head and their head only. So the head doesn't move, but their body parts will move. And you can see all of the different things that these players are really doing with their body because their head is stable. That style kind of developed over the years. I want to say I started doing that in probably like 2021. I found some inspo from a basketball video. There's a guy named Cool Mac, Cameron Looks on Instagram, who does a lot of stuff for LeBron James and LeBron James's family and documents a lot of what Bronny is doing now in the NBA. But he kind of started, I feel like that's where I first saw motion tracking. I saw him tracking a ball. I saw him tracking players. And I was like, wow, like, that would be super sick to implement into hockey. Like, I'd love to just be somebody who kind of not pioneers it, but kind of just brings that to hockey. I'm not sure if anyone has done it in hockey before I started doing it. I know for me, that was just something I saw early on that I was like, that'd be really sick to incorporate in the game, because these players are doing these incredible things that you don't really see on the broadcast. You don't really see it on social. I mean, now you kind of do, but during that time when I first started to play around with it, we weren't really seeing that. Or you'd see a clip, but it would be from a broadcast angle. Whereas when I shoot a game, I'm usually shooting opposite broadcast most of the time, or I try to shoot from different angles, from more of like a fan's perspective. That started in like 2021 for me, and I just kind of was playing around with the idea. Tried it on a couple different shoots I was doing for clients. And then when I got the gig at the NHL, I was just playing around with some footage one day on a trip. I always tell people I love to edit on airplanes and stuff. Like, that's just one of the things that I really enjoy. And I was editing on a plane. I'm like, I'm going to try this on a McKinnon clip and see what this looks like. And I was like, whoa, like, this looks sweet. And I just posted it, not thinking anything of it. I just thought it was something cool. And it just exploded, and it exploded it was very overwhelming at the time when it did, because I was like, just the following grew. I was going to Sabres games and going to work and stuff. And it was like, I just like kept getting approached, which like is super sick. And I'm grateful for everybody that always taps into the videos. But I was like, whoa, like, what just happened here in my life? Yeah. I don't want to say like my life changed because of it, because there's still so many other things that I do. And like, that's a very small part of who I am and what I do in the creative space. But it was very overwhelming at first, because I was not expecting it to blow up the way it did. But I'm super grateful for it, because it did open a lot of doors. And I think that it also kind of showcased hockey in a way that we've never really seen it before. And I think that was always a goal of mine, was to have some sort of stamp on hockey, whether it was through our Skate Skins brand or whether it was through something, we were doing at Dishin. And I do got to say, like, I give a lot of credit to a lot of the guys that I work with between the Skins and Dishin brand, especially Matt too, because I mean, without him, I feel like a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now isn't possible. So, but yeah, that's kind of how that all kind of came to light.
Definitely onto something. And I think similar to another guest we had, Brendan Kaminsky, who he was episode 254, similar to you, you started building your portfolio by creating content in college, as you mentioned. And, you created content for fellow UB student turned NFLer Ladarius Mack. For photographers out there that are trying to break into the sports world, because it is challenging. What's your take on working for free early on?
Yeah, I think for one, especially for college. I mean, these college athletes, they need content, right? They need to be posted, especially with like all the stuff, all the deals that they can get. Offer those services for free. I think that goes a long way, because it kind of helps you build your portfolio. And these players are going to share your work on their pages. Like, some of these guys, they may have 5,000 followers. They might have 20,000 followers. They might have 100,000 followers. Like, I remember I went to college with a kid that had over 100,000 followers that posted one of the videos that I made for him for free. Then, wasn't expecting anything to happen of it. And he reposted the video, tagged me in it, and it ended up getting me a lot of editing work. I'm glad you brought up Ladarius too, because this is such a great example and someone who was a really good friend of mine in college, and we still keep up with each other to this day. And for those that don't know, his brother is Khalil Mack, who also plays in the NFL. Big, huge name, right? They both went to the University at Buffalo. Me, not being so much of a football guy, I had, for the longest time, Ladarius and I were friends in college, and I had no idea who his brother was. I knew who Khalil was, but I just never put two and two together that they were related.
Right.
And I remember a lot of my friends were like, "Yo, is that Khalil Mack's brother?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'm going to ask him. But I think with him though too, he was somebody that we were close with because we both had a lot of classes together. I saw he had an insane, and he still has an insane work ethic. And I think for me, when I was in college, I needed to be around that more. And, between building a friendly relationship with one another, he asked me to do photos and some video for him and things like that. And we did that. And I made his senior highlight tape, which was super cool. And that was right before he got drafted, or I don't know if he got drafted. I think he did get drafted. I can't remember to the Bears. I know he got picked up, but I remember my DMs were going insane when he got picked up by the Bears, and people were like, "Oh, dude, it's so if you need anything in Chicago, let me know." And I'm like, "I'm not going." Ladarius, but I'm not going to Chicago. Right. But that is one friendship and one relationship that I'm very grateful for. Ladarius is someone that I needed in that time too. I don't think I said this on the pod earlier, but when I was at UB, my first year, I played hockey there, played club hockey, and you still need to hold a certain GPA to stay involved in the club. And my first year, I actually failed out of the School of Management at UB, and it was tough. That was my last hoorah of hockey. That was it. Hockey was just you're done. It's over. You're ineligible. You can't play that. You can't play the following semester. Yeah. So it was a big punch in the face, and I think that's something I needed, because that gave me the time to go hard with the video stuff with Dishin, but it also, I was around Ladarius a little bit more, and he was inviting me out to practices and things like that with the football team. And it was just a totally different camaraderie than I was used to. And I was opened up to so many different things being with those guys and just seeing, different walks of life. I mean, you have someone like Ladarius, whose brother was, knows what it takes to get to that level. And I think for me, it was just such a blessing for me to be around that. And I think I needed that at the time, because it was motivating, and it, showed me if you just put your nose down and head down and work, good things will happen, but you got to show up every day. And that's something Ladarius did every day when we were at school. And
just another example of everything being meant to be in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah, so, for sure.
One of the things you've talked about, and you hear people say it all the time, that inspiration can come from anywhere, and it sounds like, you have this group that you're working with of other creatives. How does, working with Matt and the other folks that you're working with, how is that pushing your creativity and pushing your boundaries and helping you grow as a creative?
For example, Matt's always trying to work on something new every day. He's always trying to have just coming up with different creative concepts on how he can incorporate Smiley, our Smiley character, for example, into content. What does that look like? How does that build out look? I think one thing he's very good at is looking 10 steps ahead of things and really kind of being, again, we say early to the party. So I think seeing him do a bunch of different things has helped me creatively and helped to kind of keep my inspiration going. And there's also another buddy of ours that we work closely with, Adam Kellerman, who is a creative genius when it comes to video and graphic design. He's also someone who's trying new things all the time, trying out new gears. So I think just seeing those guys always being willing to try new things, to take constructive criticism from the entire group and take feedback and apply that feedback to a project they're working on, I think just fuels me and makes me want to be better. And I think too, just, Buffalo is a very underrated city when it comes to creative. There is a lot of creative things that go on here between fashion designers, videographers, photographers, but also artists too. There's a rap group by the name of Griselda who has really popped off being here. You have, guys like West Side Gun who really put on for our city. You've got Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine. Those are three very influential rappers that have always kind of stuck to their formula, and their formula has clearly worked for them, being signed to Shady Records, to Wes doing New Era collabs, and basically having his own Fourth Rope, which is a wrestling show, if you will. So like a lot of that, seeing that stuff too is super motivating, and it's inspiring. So I think just pulling inspo from guys like Matt and Adam in our group, but then also inspo from outside areas too that aren't necessarily involved in the game helps keep that creative juice flowing, because we're able to take things that maybe aren't necessarily a part of the game and bring them into the game through different limelights. That's
great. Great stuff. It's always great seeing other people, what do they call it? Not cooperation, but co-opetition, right? You work together, but there's some level of competition there at the same time, which is great. And Nick, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. And we ask each of our guests the same final question, because our listeners are always waiting to hear what the guest's answer to this is, because we are the Midland Money Mindset. We're all about joy. And that is, what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
I woke up today with a list of things that I have to get done this week, and it's all things that I genuinely want to do. And I think that's what brought me joy today. Yeah. I think that when you wake up and, things might get overwhelming at times, but I think I'm a very glass half full versus half empty kind of person. So I'm grateful to have that list of things to do, because that pressure, I look at it as a privilege. And when you don't have things to do, then that becomes a problem. So I think for me that, just waking up and having things to do is, and having some work on my plate is definitely something that brought me joy today.
Awesome. And we're grateful that we're part of that joy. So I appreciate that. And Nick, we're going to have all of your information in the show notes. But if people want to learn more about you, connect with you, see your work, what's the easiest and the best place for them to go do that?
I would say right now, Instagram at 716Nick, and then also to info at 716nick.com. That's my email too. So if there's anyone that wants to work together or anything like that, please email me there, and be happy to check it out and see what we can cook up together.
Fantastic. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure having you on. Again, thank you for taking time out of your schedule and allowing us to be part of that joyful week, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, man. You too. We were overdue for this.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you for finding the time and finding the DM. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me on.
Nick, thank you for sharing your journey from building brands in an apartment to creating viral content seen on NHL socials, ESPN, Bleacher Report, and beyond. Your story is a powerful reminder that creativity, courage, and consistency can change everything. And to our listeners, we appreciate you being part of the Midland Money Mindset community. Keep pursuing the work that brings you joy and moves you closer to the life you envision. Nick Ciavarella and all he is up to can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find them can be found in the show notes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Midland Money Mindset. Remember, it's not just about the money, it's finding joy in the journey and embracing the right mindset. If you love the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Don't forget to follow along for more tips and inspiration. Please visit the social links below to connect with Larry or his guests. Until next time, keep smiling, keep thriving, and remember to think about, what did you do today that brought you joy?
The opinions voiced in the Midland Money Mindset Show with Lawrence Sprung are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy ensures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Guests on the Midland Money Mindset Show are not affiliated with CWM LLC.